Scotch4Dummies, but what you see on your screen right now is just one dummy, because the 4 dummies are scattered through the winds, and we're trying to figure out what we need to do to do that. So today we do have guests, and the beauty is, since I'm the only one kind of in my home bar, I'm set up, I'm driving today, so wish me luck. But who we have online right now are one other dummy and one other advocate or whiskey ambassador. That'd be Erik Wait up in the upper right corner, and Drew is down on the bottom there, and all of us are live talking through you tonight. So tonight, topics we have: number one, what happened this week? What are you drinking? So I see we have several people online, but also in addition to what you're drinking, we're going to talk about Whiskytubers. So all of us here are Whiskytubers, but we're going to go into more detail of what that means. Is everybody on YouTube a Whiskytuber, or is just some of us? And then we get to discuss the news at the end. So, Scotch4Dummies, what have we put out? Drew, what did we put out this week?
Well, I think it was the old Pulteney 18.
Oh, Pulteney 18.
That was a good one.
Yep.
Enjoyable dram for sure. It was. I think that at the end of the day, it held its ground. It was a solid score for all of us. I think that for the 3 extra years, I think it was a double maturation, I think, or something.
It was the same maturation, but maybe different ages in those. But
I thought overall, it was a really good Scotch. But you know what? I think I preferred the 15, to be honest.
Same. So I was at Old Pulteney during my last trip, and same thing. I liked the 15. We tried, I think it was only up to the 21, and yet the one that was more moderately priced, lesser years, and yet that was my favorite out of the lineup. So I really liked that one.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the 15 was probably preferred to me. I don't know. Maybe it was because of the price of the 18 was so much higher, but again, none of them are bad. And 18, no. I think maybe it was a little more mature and less bright. I think was kind of one of my original observations.
I think overall, what just really sucks is that just the prices of Scotch is just going up and up, right? I mean, the 18 technically was probably in the family of 18-year-olds as far as prices, but geez, it's hard.
Even if you were to taste them blind and forget the price, put everything else aside, I still would have preferred the 15.
I agree. I totally agree with you on that.
And it seemed to me it had a certain freshness and punch of fruit more that just really stood out, and particularly some citrus notes that I just really, really liked.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that. Erik, give us a little scoop on what you have been doing this week.
So I've been continuing my series on the business of Scotch whiskey, and it just so happens we didn't have this planned. I actually mentioned you guys in my last video because I talked about the current events going on in the Scotch whiskey industry, and the problem with covering the topic is as soon as the video is done, something new is going to be out, and so I don't do regular updates on what's going on in the Scotch whiskey industry, but I mentioned that you guys do. So it's really exciting. There's something coming along, just constantly coming along. And Food Quig mentioned that he has a difficulty memorizing all the distilleries there are. And now there's so many popping up all the time and difficult to pronounce. It's just a really exciting time. We're living in sort of a renaissance of the Scotch whiskey industry. So that's been the main thing I've been working on. And then I'll have another video coming out this week. But that's my main focus for now, is the Scotch business of Scotch whiskey at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I was watching your video this week, and man, there are so many different whiskeys, so many different distilleries now, new openings, new reopenings, all that kind of stuff. So it really, I thought it was very informative to try and talk through what all there. And I loved your bringing Roy in to actually describe what was it? I don't remember.
I'll screw it up.
Come on, Erik.
I'll screw up the. I'm Erik looked like I don't.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I'm not going to pronounce it. People are just going to complain. I'm still working on trying to pronounce the Macallan and not.
You had to think about that for a second. Then you're like,
I did. I had to pause. It's Macallan, not McAllen.
Macallan. It's Macallan, not Macallan. Yeah.
Macaw.
But one of the things that I'm sort of glad about what's going on in the whiskey industry is, and just in talking up to people is, they're not, hey, let's crank up the machine, let's start putting out some juice. Everybody's talking about craftsmanship. Everybody's talking about paying attention to the detail. Everybody's talking about, making the right choices for everything they do. So it's not a return to the way things were, in which they're just putting out a massive amount of juice. They really are concentrating on craftsmanship and putting out quality whiskeys. And unfortunately, a lot of it, I'm going to be, 75 years old and chewing on my gums when it finally gets released.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess that's the question. Are they truly crafting, or are they trying to they're trying to get whiskey in a barrel because it's hot now? And so they can, if it's sooner it's in the barrel, the sooner it can reach that 3 years, and the sooner you can put it in a non-aged statement whiskey.
So I would say they are kind of doing both, in the fact that they have, in terms of the big picture and the plan, they got to have some money coming in. So the gin industry, last year, actually in Scotland, they sold more gin than Scotch, which blew my mind. Really? And going to Edinburgh and Glasgow, people are talking gin, 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 gin. There's a big gin thing on. I don't pay any attention to gin, but that's what brings in the early money to help some of them out. But They are selling. So, for example, Annandale in the Lowlands, they put out, it's a cask strength, 62%, something like that, 3-year-old peated whiskey for 125 pounds, which was a bit much. But that's not their long-term plan. That's not what they're planning on doing. This is just, hey, to get some money in, to get the name out there, and to counterbalance for the youth. They're putting in some. They're going to be a peated distillery in the Lowlands, which is cool. But they put in higher ABV to get more intensity of flavor to sort of counterbalance for the youth. But yeah, they've got a long-term plan, and I really like that.
That's good. Yeah, Drew, you're a gin guy, aren't you?
Well, I do like gin. I partake in the gin thing, but I think that's an excellent point. I know that when we were at Castle and Key, I think that was I guess it was this year, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever. And we were going down there, and they haven't technically opened yet. Their whiskeys are still maturing, but they were producing gin, and we were talking to them about that and how it's that and vodka. They're supplementing that in to kind of help speed up the process, right? And if you think about that, that's exactly what the Scotch industry is doing right now, because they need to supplement the time. They don't have time. They ran out of stuff in stock. The NAS is growing out, so this is a good way to kind of supplement some of that stuff. And I mean, let's face it, gin is pretty good, and they have good botanicals over there. So I mean, it's a fast turnaround moneymaker.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of gin is it's all in the distillation. I mean, you're not aging in anything, so it's fast. And you can make a different batch of gin and a different flavor by simply changing the aromatics you put in that still. And so you don't need to necessarily age it. You don't need, I mean, you can make one short batch of one, change the aromatics, finish the batch with another one. I mean, it's really that simple to make it. So you can really tweak and refine a gin really easily relative to a cask or a whiskey that has to sit for years and years and years.
In the meantime, it's bringing some cash into Scotland, so they don't have to depend on new make or something like that. I mean, they've got to do something. But one of the other things I noticed is some of the newer distilleries have bought casks, because I'm in the warehouse of other distilleries, and I'm like, I see these names on these casks. I'm like, oh, what the heck? Why these new distilleries have casks and other distilleries? I think they're buying some whiskey from other distilleries. They're going to be selling them under their label, coming from another distillery until they get their own. So what's another way to do is sourcing. If you're not going to do gin, then you do sourcing.
MGP in the United States and Indiana, they make whiskey for everyone.
Right.
I mean, Whiskey Tribe and all their initial make, their new make came from MGP that they aged in Texas. But I mean, lots of whiskeys come from MGP, and they make good. The thing is, from what I understand, they make good whiskey. Any grain bill you want, they'll give you. Bring a barrel, they'll fill it up. Away you go.
But they're kind of doing the independent bottler, where they're buying older casks from other distilleries. They'll have their label on it, but it won't be their own. It'll be coming from somewhere else. So they're sort of getting a foot in the door in bringing in, a product to support the business by doing a little bit of independent bottling route there as well.
So MGP is doing that?
No. I'm talking about in Scotland. In Scotland.
Oh, Scotland. Yeah.
So for example, the owner, I was at, my brain just went blank. The last distillery I went to in Scotland, I was heading back from Orkney back to Glasgow, stopped at this distillery. I wasn't planning on it. Did a tour, and when we were in I was in the bear house, I started seeing names of other distilleries in their warehouse.
Interesting.
Names were for new or being resurrected distilleries, which means they've made some whiskey. It's got some age on it, but it's not coming from them. It's coming from this other distillery. And so when they open up, they're going to have some aged whiskey. It just didn't come from them. They're playing the independent bottler route in order to bring in some whiskey.
Yep. Yeah, and I guess they would have to call those a blended Scotch whiskey, because it wouldn't be a single malt unless I guess they're all.
It depends on how they label it. So, for example, the owner of Annandale, he bought a cask from Kilchoman. So you can actually buy a Kilchoman, but you buy it at his distillery with his personal name on it. Not the distillery name, but the owner's name on it. In fact, I was there with Roy. Roy picked up a bottle. But anyway, I'm just getting a little peek, a little guessing, and trying to figure out. I mean, they don't come out and tell you, hey, this is our business plan. You just have to kind of get a peek at it and kind of guess and figure out what direction people are going. But I was able to talk to a few owners. The one thing that I had concerned about is both of them use exact same terminology, which makes me nervous, is the Singapore model, which means they're looking at how they're doing things in Asia and marketing and branding and pulling people in, and that's when I kind of go, We'll see. It's still early.
Yeah, Scotch in the News, we have something that's kind of similar to that. So we'll wait to Scotch in the News to get to that.
I do want to comment, Erik. You've got a really nice coin selection going on there. That is lovely.
I have some gaps here, so I need one from Mash and Drum, and I know Jason's watching, so you need to send me one, dude. I like to get one from I Whiskey She Wines, but anyway, so yeah.
We need some coins from those guys too.
Bourbon Insane. This is the best one. I mean, this is. now I'm good a beard. I'm kind of throwing that off.
That's Erik as a Bond villain.
Yes. So anyway, yeah, and then you guys are up here. Two different series from you guys. Scotch Test Dummies. Roy's are down here somewhere. I'm looking at everything backwards. But yeah, definitely have some room for some more. So any whiskey tubers want to send me some.
That's nice. Did you make that case or?
No. So I'm a Marine Corps veteran and spent 20 years in federal law enforcement, whatever. So I had challenge coins before the tubers got into this.
Sure.
So I've got another collection of them. I think I might have shown some of them to
Andrew.
Andrew when you visited here.
Yeah.
So I get a catalog, Sergeant Grit. It's Marine Corps memorabilia. So I bought this from Sergeant Grit, and then just put my whiskey coins on there.
Very cool.
Makes sense.
So what are you drinking? You're drinking the Macallan? It looks awful watery.
Well, I've got it on. It's high in the high 80s degrees. It's summertime. So the Macallan Classic Cut. This is the 2017, which is the closest thing you're going to get to a cask strength. This is 58.4% alcohol by volume. You don't see cask strength or anything like that out there from Macallan. So this is the closest you can get to a Macallan cask. I don't think it's quite cask strength, probably just barely below it. I know Rob Whiskey in the Six. This is one of his favorites.
Yeah. Is that in your glass right now?
Yeah.
What? It doesn't look like
ice in it.
It's a little cloudy. I put some ice in. I'm drinking on ice.
They have air conditioning in California, don't they?
So
yeah, but you don't want to hear it though, because it would be really loud. It would just interfere with the mic.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I'm drinking the Balvenie. I just picked this up in Grand Rapids. I haven't seen this one. The Sweet Toast of American Oak. It was pricey. $75 for this guy. I'm not sure if you guys have it. It's pretty good. It's basically supposed to be a little fruitier. They've charred the barrels a little more. I haven't read too much about it, but overall, I mean, it's a little too pricey for me for the $75, but it is a nice taste to it. definitely got a little bit of more of a char, just to kick a char on it. But hey, you know what? I'm traveling and I got a bottle with me. So there you go.
There you go. It's not Jack Daniel's Old Number 7.
And it still looks the right color, Erik.
It tastes good, man. I don't discriminate based on color. I just taste good.
And I am drinking the Glendorman
Nice.
12. This is one of the few bottles left that it's fairly old. I forgot to check on the date when it was bottled, but I've had this for a while. Always a great dram to start with, and maybe I'll change it to something a bit different later. Because over here behind my shoulder is the whiskey bar. So
there you go.
It's a thin reach, so you can't beat that.
You got some good bottles in there. I know that.
Yeah, here let me get one that I know you guys like.
So the other thing that helps cool down, not only it have a little bit of ice, but go without pants or underwear. That helps.
So I actually I watched so speaking of Whiskytubers, going back on track to that a little bit. So we all kind of, years we've been doing this now, right? And there's a lot more people. It's kind of saturated right now, and there's some people out there doing a good job. Just a couple that I'm kind of liking right now are Whiskey Geek and I Whiskey She Wines. I really like those two as well. They're funny as hell. And I just watched them, speaking of Johnny Walker, I just watched them do a review on the new Johnny Walker, is it Fire and Ice or whatever they're calling it?
Yeah, funny. I just watched that today.
Yeah.
And doesn't look like it's resounding, like much better bottle, but it looks like it's better than the original White Walker. So
yeah, Sam said she didn't hate it.
So if you'll see, it is roughly time for us to get into Whiskytubers, and you see we just added another Whiskytuber.
Hey, Jason.
How we doing, fellas? What's up, dummies? How you doing, Erik?
how are you?
Doing good, guys.
Okay, so Whiskytube. How long? So collective memory. Do we remember when we started using the term Whiskytubers? Do we know the date? How long has it been?
Wow.
I don't remember that exactly.
It definitely wasn't in the beginning for me. I didn't learn about that term until maybe 6 months in.
Okay.
My channel just turned a year old in July. So,
And my 1 year anniversary because I originally was doing wine and then brought in whiskey. It was then wine and spirits. And then a year ago from next Friday, so next Friday is my 1 year anniversary of doing the split, the great divorce between my two channels.
Yeah.
And launching the new channel. But the first thing I remember is the Whiskytube was like someone did a hashtag. Was the first time I think I remember seeing it. And so they were using it now in order to sort of collectively make a reference to everybody. That's my first recollection.
Yeah, we started using that fairly early. I don't remember who all was involved with was online at the time, but we thought it was a great term. There was a term that was out there that another group had kind of coined with whiskey fabric.
Right.
But we, that was kind of more, that was already trademarked, I think. And so the Whiskytubers kind of make more sense because we are, at least for Scotch4Dummies, our collective is primarily on YouTube. That is our primary source. That's our primary vehicle. We have expanded into some podcasts and some blogs and things too, but really our bread and butter is YouTube right now. And so Whiskytubers kind of makes a whole lot more sense, especially because we're the only, essentially exclusively Scotch group that we know. Lots of others do whiskeys, and that's a much wider range and capabilities, and actually it's a lot more affordable too. So doing
True.
Scotch. But I think that the Whiskytube community, I think what we see and the advantage we see to that is exactly like this. We've got 3 different channels on. We have we've all talked through email and Twitter and private groups and private chats and Facebook Messenger and all these kinds of things that we've done together, and we've learned from each other. Oh, who'd you get your coins from? What whiskey are you doing this week? What is your next goal to send out? Those kinds of things where you can learn from each other, and really, as a collective, we get a better product onto YouTube sooner because we can learn from each other, and you don't have to start out on your own. What kind of lighting did you use? What kind of cameras do you use? All this kind of stuff. So I think this is a great example of why we got advantage of YouTube, as well as hopefully others got advantage as well.
But you have to remember too, when we started this, Andrew, we started before. I mean, honestly, we were probably one of the first ones to do live, and it was on Facebook at the time because it was the only one that was allowing it one through your phone. And at the time, YouTube wouldn't allow live unless you're a certain subscriber base number, right? Like 1,000
Sure.
or that. So we were very new to that piece of it. I mean, we were lucky just to shoot videos and upload them at that point. This is what, 4 years ago now for us, plus whatever. And so we were kind of like, YouTube was a brand new kind of term for us and learning it. And then we've learned so much now. And if you think about it, you know, in the last year and a half, 2 years, the technology has really expanded so fast that it's so much easier to shoot content, to upload content, to do live, we're using StreamYards right now because Google Hangouts was part of YouTube and it's not now. And so other companies are latching on. And so it's interesting how things have evolved and where are they going to evolve in the next 2 years, right? Is Whiskytube going to evolve into something else?
So the technology is great and the technology is advancing the most, but even if we had crappy technology, if you have really good people, you'll have really good Whiskytubers. The technology is supportive of what we do, but it's really the people behind it and the personalities and the knowledge.
True.
And all that stuff that really is the driving force more than all the, the sophistication of technology. But I was gonna say, I've learned a lot, say, from Jason and from you guys, but I also use you guys as references because some of the other people coming along, I say, hey, here, for example, one channel I'm gonna have on tomorrow night, I told them, you guys need to learn how to interact and to dialogue amongst yourselves. If you want to learn people who do really, really well, because it's got to be a challenge with 4 different personalities, pay attention to Scotch4Dummies and just see how they're able to not step on each other too much and interact really well. But then on the other hand, in terms of platform and editing and content and like that, I push a lot of people towards Jason, the master drum. I think he's just really, really skilled, does really, really well. And when it comes with a lot of knowledge and enthusiasm, and he's very engaging, probably one of the most engaging in terms of even off his own channel. And so it's really, really cool to have Jason on there as well. One of my favorite channels.
Thanks, Eric. You're making me blush.
Well, you did pay me $20 a month.
Show, man. I think this is the first time we've had you on our show, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, I was before I even had a channel, I was in your chat rooms as Jason C, kind of learning a little bit. I'm, most people know I'm primarily a bourbon guy, but I've really ventured into Scotch the last year or so, especially with the channel. I have found that there are some Scotches that I love. I also found out very early on that I love peated Scotches, which was kind of a cool transition for me. But yeah, I've learned to appreciate it a lot more. And I think my favorite thing about getting into some more Scotches and learning from you guys and learning from other channels, obviously Eric and Rob, Whiskey in the Six, getting into different Scotches, Roy Aquavite, that, it's helped even, my palate a lot. I mean, I could pick up even different things now in bourbon as well that I couldn't get before, just because I think there's different things in Scotches, that barley, the different variations in sherry, ex-bourbon casks, port casks, all the different variations and flavors you can get. I really think that's helped my palate a lot. But yeah, as Eric said, I kind of came in with the mindset to just, put out good content. I have a graphic and production background, so I think that helped a little bit.
Yeah, that's one thing that
sex appeal.
What's that?
I just have the natural sex appeal. That's what I got going for me.
it is.
And
the Bond villain look on your coin, that helps a lot.
and by the way, Eric, that crumb catcher is looking better by the day, buddy.
Yeah. It's really, really irritating.
So that was one thing, Jason. I know from the start, when I first started seeing your stuff, the graphics and the artwork and all that kind of stuff, that really starts you at another level. I mean, it shows professionalism and all those kind of things. So that is always a good way to start. Drew is our graphic artist who's done all of ours. And you can see kind of a progression through our development on our graphic design and our coins and those kind of things as they develop. And as he gets better at what he's doing and, targeting, a coin design versus a shirt design versus a t-shirt design versus, and whatever else, what works best, hat design. So we've done, the circle round thing for a hat is a very different type of graphic than it would be for others. So that is part of the things that we've learned from others, watched others, looked at other people's coin designs and hat designs and say, wow, what makes it pop? What is your brand? Essentially, the Nike logo is a perfect example of it tells you nothing, but you absolutely recognize it. And that is your brand, whether it be on a shirt or on a hat or whatever, you want it to kind of represent what you are. And that.
Yeah, and to echo what Erik was saying, normally you don't see a lot of channels with like 4 or more people, trying to do a review or trying to do. I feel like that's a little bit more rare. I mean, there are some out there. But I think you guys have a really great way of the one thing I was impressed with. And once I started my own channel, I was kind of watching because I was by myself and I'm still by myself. So trying to figure out the dynamic between doing a solo show and then, kind of the dynamic that you guys have where you're reviewing a whiskey, reviewing a Scotch, and you guys have a specific, really great way of not stepping over each other. You all really present valid points based on your palates. Andrew, I know you love the peated stuff. So, I thought it was really kind of a cool, and even on your live streams, you guys have a really natural, great conversation talking about, all different types of Scotches, the history, the marketing, all that stuff. So, kudos to you and cheers to you on that, guys.
So, Jason, what are you drinking?
Yeah.
I just picked this up yesterday and I'm in love. This is the Tamdu batch strength number 3.
Yes. That's a good batch.
Good one.
my Lord, this is good.
It's got a sexy bottle. It's got everything.
Yeah.
Have you had the one?
I have not had one. This is the I had a sample of the 2, which I really like, but I like the 3 a little better.
So we have some at the bar. You need to come on up and taste it. I'm going to tell you right now, the series, they're all good, but the one is like leaps and bounds better than all of them. It's amazing.
How come the one of everything is always better than everything else?
Somebody figure it out. Let me know.
So I got a question for you guys. So how has being a whiskey tuber guided your exploration and journey of whiskey itself? Because it's not about being a whiskey tuber in and of itself. It's about the whiskey and the people we interact with. But how do you think the choices you've made, maybe the adventure you've taken, the exploration, the fact that you're a whiskey tuber sort of leads you in a direction to explore different whiskeys?
Oh, yeah. For me, it was easy. I was a bourbon guy, and I wanted to get more into Scotch. That was kind of one of the starting ideologies of my channel. I'm like, I'm going to be a bourbon guy that's been drinking bourbon for 2-3 years and doing some great bourbon reviews as best as I can, and then kind of getting into my journey into Scotch. So I did a whole month last year. All I did was Scotch, and I just tried to keep trying different ones. I got some great advice from Roy and from Rob, even from Jeremy. Just kind of, hey, which ones to taste, how to kind of go along the path. And as much as I love some of those ones in the beginning I had, the ones that I fell in love with were like the Ardbegs and the Lagavulins, and there was something about it. So,
because I know I would not have all this if I wasn't a whiskey tuber. I would have found a half a dozen ones I really liked, would have stuck with them. But the fact that I'm putting out content makes me explore it more than, or at least I'm doing a lot faster and spend a lot more money than I probably normally would have.
Yeah, I would say that we've definitely expanded because we are doing Whiskytube. And I think we had Wheelhouse Whiskey, who's, I don't know I didn't see if he's on tonight, but he was one that every time he made a comment on a line, he would be finished up by whiskey we haven't tried. And Glenfiddich 21 rum cask or something like that. And he would say, hey guys, good to hear from you. Great stream, Glenfiddich 21 rum cask. And, we didn't know about it. So eventually we got a bottle of it and it's like, yeah, it's good. And, so people will push you to whiskeys that you wouldn't have thought of. And that has really expanded us. That's how we found SMWS. That's how we found some of these older whiskeys. That's how you find things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. And so that's one huge advantage of WhiskyTube, is it just expands your horizons.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I think output from some of our lives and our reviews, people will say, well, I've seen it on the shelf, but I hadn't thought about it. Maybe I need to get it now. Or, okay, now I know I can pass on that bottle. That's kind of the reason we got into it, is because you walk into a liquor store, there's this wall of whiskey, and they all have pretty bottles. And which one do you buy? Well, pull up Scotch4Dummies.com. You go to the reviews. Oh, they like this one, and I like Drew's profile. I'm going to go. Drew gave this one a high score. I'm going to try this one because it's as good as anything else. And that. And so to do that, we had to get new whiskeys. And so that does also limit kind of the whiskeys that we want to review. If we get this rare off the shelf, old dusty bottle, it's great to taste, but doing a review of it doesn't really serve YouTube because nobody else can get it. So we want to make sure whiskeys that we're tasting are ones that are available, reasonably available in most markets. They don't have to be on every liquor store shelf, but if you can get them in most markets, I think it adds value to review it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of bottles that Scott and Bart have reviewed, and then I end up buying it. And there's been stuff that you guys have had and inspired me to go or aim to add that distillery to my list of distilleries I'm visiting because you had a rep on your show. You guys had a rep from Old Pulteney before I went there, so I'm like, okay, I got to put Old Pulteney on my.
Go quick. Yeah. So
I've been wanting to ask you guys. From the beginning when I started watching your show, Scotch4Dummies, so I guess Drew and Andrew, I'll start with you twos. A little bit of my Italian comes out. I think I told you I literally have a cousin Vinny that lives in Indiana, so just let me know. When it comes to a line of whiskey, a line of scotches, of single malt scotches, a specific line, what are your favorites? Or what is your favorite? If you could pick one to have on a deserted island at all times, what would it be for the both of you?
All right, Drew, you go first.
You can only pick one brand.
Well, mine's Lagavulin 16. That is one of the whiskeys. Maybe you could do an Ardbeg, but really the Lagavulin 16, it's fairly affordable. Between $70 and $100. It is great peat, strong peat, earthy peat, but some sweetness in there too from the casking. And it's just, to me, it's almost an ideal Scotch.
Well, I'm talking about the whole line. So it's the whole Lagavulin line, Trump line.
Oh, that's a whole different question then.
Yeah.
Because we had.
Let me phrase it this way. If you could take a distillery with you on a deserted island.
Yeah, that's the key. Distillery.
That's a question.
Yeah.
Or if Isla became a deserted island.
There you go. I'll take Isla, please.
Yeah, Isla would be a great deserted island to end up on.
That's a really, really hard question.
So the key with that is you've got to have such a variety. It would be nice to have variety. Kilchoman has a huge variety of whiskeys. They've got, the lemony Machier Bay. They've got some good, well-peated ones. But, something like Glenmorangie, they've got sweet. They've got the Signet. They've got the Star. They've got a really fairly broad range.
Yeah. I know it's hard to pick, but I'm just wondering if I guess what I'm trying to get at is I'm sure you guys go, because I go through phases when it comes to even bourbons and different scotches. I mean, you just kind of fall in love with different distilleries, maybe a month or two at a time. But if there's a certain specific distillery that always holds true for you, what would that one be?
It's Ardbeg. So many to choose from.
It's Ardbeg.
I don't know. I mean,
I kind of figured Erik's was Ardbeg. He loves his Ardbeg.
Yeah. I do love Ardbeg too.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with any of those, really, to be honest. I mean, if you told me I was stuck in an island with Lagavulin, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'll take it. I mean, it's not my wheelhouse, but yeah, it's good crap.
Ardbeg, Zipline.
Zipline. people are already chatting Deanston. Of course, I'm loving Deanston.
Oh my God, Deanston, that's another great one.
Or
Right?
Glenn.
And they make good stuff. But honestly, if I had to pick a distiller, I mean, Deanston 20 is my go-to. I love it. But the 18, yeah, it's pretty good. And then, you know, the 12's obviously a good one. But if I had to pick a distillery that had the gamut, the things that I'm, you know, it's just going to be a shocker. But I'm going to say Springbank.
Oh, nice. I would not guess Springbank.
Yeah.
Because they're all over the place, and they've got funk. They've got all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it would be something that you're gonna, you know, you're getting good quality, variety, quality, and it's going to be something.
And they produce long grow as well, so you got to put long grow in there with them.
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, Diego Silva in the chat said Springbank cheats because there's so many damn options, and it's true. They make so much good stuff.
They do.
You can survive a happy guy on an island with Springbank.
Yeah.
Everybody's telling me I'm a wise man. That's funny. I'm getting texts and everything.
If you were on the island, Drew, you'd be the guy with the cane and the robe. You know, the wise man.
You shall not pass.
Yes.
So Jason, we got to move on to a couple questions, but we didn't get at the beginning of the show. We started out with what kind of videos you put out this week. What did you put out most recently, and what are you working on right now?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I just put out a I didn't just put it out. I put it out on I think it was Sunday. I did an Old Forester Whiskey Row series lineup video, which that video really kind of took off. So I've been letting that kind of go before I post anything else. But I just filmed yesterday. Actually, no, not yesterday. Today. It was actually today. It shows how short-term my memory is right now. I just filmed the new Booker's batch, the third batch in the series that released that I just picked up, which was it's got a great name. It's called the Booker's Country Ham Batch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I just filmed that today, and that's going to release tomorrow. Brand new batch, so hoping everyone takes a look at that. I compare it to the other two previous releases from this year. And coming up next week, I have a cool video I'm working on for my top 5 available go-to rye whiskeys. So that's what's upcoming.
That's excellent. So we do probably need to hit some of the comments. We have completely ignored comments for this entire episode. So I'm gonna, I don't know if anybody wants to take over, but there's lots of people on. We've got roughly, you can see up in the upper left corner of your screen, we had 60 people watching right now. And we can start with comments. Lockness, Whiskey Crusaders, One Lost Cause. Erik, are you on? What the heck? James is on. Trooper Henry. Bob H has been on the whole time. Malta Man Cave's here. Chris Willett. Now Deep is in. Bob H. Scotch on the Bayou. I saw Lee really early.
Hi, Lee.
Yeah, hi Lee. Trooper. Who else we got? Bourbon Professor. Chad Adams. DB Ashi is in. And I always have Silk 2 is in. I trying to find the best way to pronounce that. Zedman, I saw him, and I'm commenting really early. Who else we got? I'm going back.
Whiskey Crusaders.
Pardon?
Matt from Whiskey Crusaders is on there.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Matt.
Mark May. Luis.
Hey, we got a super chat, Andrew. Cheers to the Whiskytubers, Erik Wait. Hey, thanks, bud. Cheers.
What's going on there? Cheers.
Cheers, Erik. Thanks.
One of the problems with StreamYard is it doesn't light things up, so you miss things like that.
Yeah, I just we gotta have double chat, huh?
I wrote them a letter, so hopefully they're gonna change it now.
All right. So one of the common themes from Scotch4Dummies is Scotch in the News. So it is roughly time. I don't have with Streamlab. We want to put that up, but I can do a quick share of this. Aldi. Now, unfortunately, this is only in Scotland. Aldi launches a Glenmarnock 25-year-old. Now, the weird thing about this one is if you roll down and look at it, so budget supermarket Aldi is launching a 25-year-old Glenmarnock exclusively to Aldi, and they only have 900 bottles of it, and it's only available in Scotland. But look at this price, $39.99 pounds.
What?
39 pounds. 40 pounds for a 25-year-old Glenmarnock.
What?
Right. It's got to be a typo.
Well, my concern here is the expression "a Speyside single malt made at an undisclosed distillery" is said to have an aromas of crisp green apple, notes of green fruit, oak tannin, vanilla spice. Those are the similar comments that were given to the White Walker. Vanilla spice, green fruit, green apple.
White Walker isn't a single malt; it's a blend.
Well, that's correct too. So that's the weird thing about this is a single malt. You know, it's not a blended Scotch, but they don't tell you what the distillery is. But 25-year-old for 40 pounds?
Did somebody Photoshop the 5 after the 2? Are they sure?
I don't understand how you can do that, but they are. So, you know, it would be nice. It's only available in Scotland at Aldi.
So here's the one thing: if you go there, that whiskey has plenty of competition.
That's true.
Because there's a freaking ocean of whiskeys you've never seen and never heard of and will never come to the USA. And so that whiskey actually has plenty of competition in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yep. You're right. There's so much Scotch in Scotland. It's crazy. Everywhere you turn, it's just all over the place. And that's kind of, you know, you mentioned earlier about how we go to, you know, talk about the different Scotches and liquor stores. I mean, that's what we do, right? You go to a liquor store and you're like, oh my God, there's so many Scotches. Well, not really. There's not that much on the shelf compared to Scotland. I mean,
so going there, the challenge is not trying to find a rare, hard to find, a unique bottle. It's how many can I get into my luggage? Because there's more to choose than you can actually bring home. There's so
many choices. You don't even know which one to get.
Right.
Use.
Yeah. All right, next topic. Diageo strikes could halt whiskey.
Oh, God forbid.
So Diageo, it says roughly 43% of Diageo's workforce are union, either members of the Unite or GMB unions. They got a pay raise offer of 2.5%, which was considered insulting because the pre-tax profit for 2018-2019 was 4.2 billion pounds. So lots of profits. Workers want a little piece of it, which is part of what unions are for. But it seems like they're going to have a hard time resolving it, which means that if they don't, the Diageo's operations will grind to a halt in the coming weeks, with the strike action likely to occur between September and November of this year. So that would be, and I don't know if that is at all 28 malt distilleries. That's a pretty wide range of whiskey from Scotland.
Well, why don't they just not make the White Walker and then they can, you know, maybe help out?
That would be a nice idea. I see a definite advantage. But so we hopefully, you know, I don't know what kind of inventory Diageo has. Can they make it through a few months of a strike without hurting supplies?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I know they have White Walker left, and that was released a year ago. So
yeah.
We'll all right. Speaking of Johnny Walker, the last cask of Johnny Walker has been presented. The Johnny Walker, which is for 10 years, they've been releasing these bottles, 330 bottles, 2,550 pounds for one bottle of this finely crafted glass with a fancy box, triple matured. It's an interesting thing. So for Johnny Walker, as you would expect, there's grain and there's malt in there. And the interesting thing about this is the reason they pick these specific distilleries is these are whiskeys only from distilleries that were alive that were around while Johnny Walker was around.
Right. So how much is it again?
He died in 1857.
No, how much is it selling for?
2,500 pounds each.
Oh yeah, I got an idea. We could have an auction, and people can bid and put in bids, and everybody get a portion of it, and whoever has the highest bid gets a bottle.
That's a crazy idea. Who would think of that?
I like how it's called John Walker. Like it's this thing. You can't say Johnny. It's
That's true. It's the John
Well,
Walker.
originally it was John Walker and Sons,
Yeah.
and then they became Johnny Walker later on.
That's fair. So they start with grain whiskey from Canvas, Port Dundas, and Cameron Bridge, and malts from Glen Albin, Cardew, Mortlake, Kleinleach, Dalhuane, and Talisker.
Wow.
They each whiskey is aged individually in its own cask. Then the grains are married, and the malts are married. They age for a certain amount of time, and then they're put together and married for a certain amount of time. So, admittedly, a lot of work has gone into making this. And of course, the weird thing is, it's a non-age statement. So how long have they been married, whatever. But it's an interesting concept.
2,500 pounds?
What?
You said 2,500 pounds?
That's correct.
That sounds, to me, that actually sounds low for what that is.
Well, you don't know how old it is. I mean, it could have been 1 year in this cask, 1 year in that cask, and then combined maturation of 3 years. You don't really know. So it is in the hand, and it's in a hand-blown Baccarat crystal decanter. So you're paying $500 for that easy. Hand engraved, whatever. So it's really an interesting concept. This is the last of the John Walker to be presented, and unfortunately, the weird thing about this, only 330 bottles will be released in China. It's a China exclusive.
If I knew some Chinese cuss words, I would say them right now.
Where do you come up with this? Why would they take these exclusive casks and release them to China only? I mean, I guess there's a market. I mean, obviously it's a huge market, and Scotch, I guess, is really popular there. I know, was it Spey? We talked to the distiller at Spey, and that brand is a Asian brand. They one of the largest in the world, and we've never heard of it because they are only in Asia.
Oh, shit.
So that's what's going on there.
I dropped my
And I think that's all we've got for today on Scotch in the News. Any interesting news that you guys might know of?
I talked about a story last night on my live stream where so one of my favorite other distilleries right here, Bruichladdich, is, so they usually do 2 special releases throughout the year. One is called the Bear Barley, and one is the organic barley release. So apparently stocks for them have reached to the point where they can make them part of the core range. So Bruichladdich Bear Barley and Bruichladdich Organic Barley are going to be joining the core range of Bruichladdich Scotches this month. They're both being released at 50% ABV. They're both $100. They're both, non-chill filtered, no color added. So yeah, I'm excited for those.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I do like the Bruichladdich Isle Barley. I mean, they do a nice job with that, with their terroir.
Yes, yeah, the true terroir distiller.
It's like Drew cut out.
Yeah, I've got it. I'm monitoring it, but he is not currently in the stream. All right. So questions and comments. So we've gone through Scotch in the News. If we don't have any additional news, it's time to get into questions. Now, I have not been watching the comments. I've been trying to manage this whole craziness that is live.
And you're doing a really great job. It's a challenge. I tell you, it's a challenge.
It is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So if people online have questions, unfortunately, we will not be seeing a appearance from Dr. Scotch this week. He is currently otherwise occupied. So we don't have Dr. Scotch questions, but clearly for anybody that's on here, any of the whiskey tubers that are on, if you have questions specific to a person, please put them into the comments.
I actually have a question for you.
Yes.
So a couple, I know it was last live stream or the live stream before that, you were talking about neck pours.
Yes.
So have you done any empirical research for yourself, experimentation with that yourself, or just mostly from what you're reading on that?
No, we haven't done much. I've been considering, or I mean, I guess Dr. Scotch has been considering getting some pipettes and getting a bottle that's been sitting on the shelf for a certain amount of time and pipetting out just like the top 5 milliliters or something out of there, and putting that in glass, and then mixing it up, doing all the mixing, and seeing if you can actually tell a difference. You know, when you think of the chemistry of it, it doesn't make sense that it's going to be that much different than anything else. That neck pour is going to be probably mostly different based on what the entire liquid in there will be different after you've had a few drams of it and let it open up, as opposed to, you know, just that.
Right. So it's the issue that it's just been opened, not that it's necessarily been held within this 1 inch space in the bottle.
That is my
right, which is similar to wine. I mean, that's the same way wine is. It's not a matter of where in the hell it is in the bottle. It's the fact that the whole bottle hasn't been exposed to air, and so
that's correct.
Going that route.
Yes, I mean the bottle is essentially sealed, especially if you have a cork in there and a really good foil cap. There's going to be very little air transfer through that.
Right.
For practical purposes, it's sealed unless you do something like put it up in an airplane or put it in the sun and it gets really hot and expands and then it has to draw air back in. You're not going to get much expansion through there.
So if you look at bottle and go like that, you're still going to get some sort of evolution getting past the neck, the shoulder of the bottle. Maybe not as dramatic, but you're still going to get something as the entire bottle starts to open up more as you go through it.
Yes, I don't know if just doing that flip will allow it to open up more, because essentially that air that's already in the top neck has been saturated.
Right.
Saturated oxygen and saturated with alcohol and things like that. All right, so looking back through questions now, are there any questions I've seen? Drew spilled scotch on his laptop and shorted it out, and it looks like he's got a backup. That's good.
I didn't feel my laptop so much as in front of me on my shirt. I'm like, so I had to clean it up.
So if you're doing it quick, you take your shirt off and move on with that.
Nobody wants it.
All right. All right. So Zedman has a question. What is your info regarding the breakdown of the new whiskey JW Fire and Ice? I have not done research on that. Does anybody have any information on that?
I don't have anything other than I know our Whiskey She Wines just did a review on it, so I would head over to their channel first. I think they're the first one, right? And somebody asked them, like, how did you get the bottle? I actually looked for those bottles just to see if I could see it up here, and I haven't seen them yet. But apparently they have a pretty big liquor store next to their house, and they were able to get it when it first came out. So they're first to the show at this point. They have more information than I do.
I need to move next door to a liquor store.
Yes, you do.
Do you really?
Yeah, you pretty much live in one if you look behind you. Yeah, you got probably more liquor than half the bars in your area. I'll guarantee it.
Probably.
So there's a question here, or a comment from One Lost Cause. I'm going to put up there. He's going to start tapping his Scotch bottles from the bottom with a drill. That would get rid of that neck pour, but may cause other issues. So maybe that's not the best answer.
Filling your bottle from the bottom.
There is a thing called a Coravin. I don't know if you ever heard of one or seen one. They're designed for wine, and it's basically a device you put on the top, and it's sort of like putting a hypodermic needle through it.
Oh yeah.
And removing the cork. And so rather than exposing the whole bottle of wine to air, you can, and they're really good for small tasting rooms, in wineries. But the problem is with whiskey bottles, even if you've got a cork, you still got this big ass plastic thing on the top or metal, so it wouldn't work with whiskey. But if you had just a cork, you could do that with a whiskey, with a cork in.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? We think whiskybrazil.com. Just subscribe to Mash and Drum. That's good. Excellent. Definitely, if you haven't subscribed to any of the people that are on here, please do. That's part of the reason we're doing it. But also, the reason we have these people on is because we know they're good whiskey tubers and they have great content. So why would we, definitely sign up for them?
So let's talk about whiskey tubers for a second and continue that conversation. So I know Whiskey Crusaders are out there. Scotch in the Bayou is out there. She's not a whiskey tuber, but she does a ton of blogs and really absolutely great blogs. Not seen her, but I mean, we talked about the whiskey fabric earlier, right? And that's talking about the whole whiskey industry, from podcasts to whiskey fabric to tubers to other things as well. There's quite a lot of people out there doing it. And so Eric and Jason, so, with all the new people out there, who are you guys watching right now? Because I don't know about you guys, but, a few years ago when we were doing it, it wasn't as saturated as now, and we were able to kind of keep up with things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have time. I try to watch shows here and there, but do you guys have some favorites that you're watching right now? Some up and newcomers you want to mention?
Alan, the whiskey friend, he's from Glasgow, but he lives in Manchester. He's been around for less than 6 months. I really like him, like his personality. This is a guy who knows a lot about whiskey, and yet he's only been drinking it for a short period of time because he was a buyer. He was a flipper, which we kind of talk bad about flippers, but he was a flipper. He was buying them as investments, and then he started drinking his investments. So there's a guy who knows a lot about whiskeys, and yet he's actually in a short period of time been drinking them. So I really like him. A lot of what I do, particularly if videos are only 10 minutes, while I'm at work and I'm doing administrative junk in the afternoon, so I'm doing other stuff, but I can have it playing on a computer while I'm at work. So a lot of my consumption is actually, and I'm not staring at taking away from work. I'm doing my job, but it's sort of like listening to the radio. So I can go through, a dozen different channels in the afternoon. So, but a lot of ones, so Scotch Test Dummies, Scotch4Dummies, No Nonsense Whiskey. Unfortunately, Jason, whiskey-wise, good for him. He's got into the whiskey business, but going into the whiskey business has now kept him from doing videos because he's so busy.
Yeah.
But I really like him. I got up to meet up with him again when I was in England. But I really miss him. So Jason, if you happen to be watching this, dude, I'd love to see you on YouTube again. For entertainment, there's entertainment and there's information. I was just watching I Whiskey She Wines earlier today. I watch you guys all the time, because I comment all the time. Watch Jason all the time. I look forward to every morning, the big boys, the Vault, every morning they're putting out something. So I'm there to watch it. So I enjoy that. Whiskey Geek. I'm trying to think of some smaller ones that might not be as aware of. Unfortunately, a lot of Whiskytubers that used to be around have sort of dropped off as well.
Yeah. I really like Whiskey Geek, to be honest. I think he's got a different perspective. He travels a lot. He does a lot of vlogs. He does a lot of blind tastings. He's something. If you guys not followed him yet, you should go check him out.
A lot of the commenters are agreeing.
I mentioned this off air before we went live. So there are a lot of independent whiskey reviewers and channels, but they've chosen not to engage with other whiskey channels. I've talked to them, interacted with them, invite them over, but you'll notice they don't show up in the chats. They don't invite other people over, and they sort of, which is fine. They can do whatever it is they want. But I really like the fact that maybe a dozen of us or more have chosen to not just do our own thing, but we actually engage in a part of a community. So there's a lot more whiskey tubers than there is in terms of the normal dozen or so guys who tend to interact a lot. But it's one thing I've really enjoyed is the fact that you've taken the initiative to interact, and Jason takes the initiative, and we take the initiative to interact because it's an important part of my social life, not just a hobby and doing whiskey channels, whiskey reviews or studies.
Yeah, I would say for me, I watch. It's funny. I don't have like a set group of whiskey tubers I watch. I just kind of watch in patterns. I think I try to watch everybody if they're, kind of reviewing stuff that I'm interested in. I mean, I Whiskey She Wines, Bourbon Junkies, My Bourbon Journey, my buddy Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I check out what he's doing. He's a newer
Cast Strength, Whiskey Crusaders.
Whiskey Crusaders. I just watched their review for the 2 new Woodfords that came out, which is hysterical. I definitely watch Rob Whiskey in the Six. I'm a huge Scotch Test Dummies fan. I love watching Scott and Bart.
Social Safeguard Club.
Yeah. So if I know I can't watch them all when everybody releases something, but if there's something out there that I'm interested in, there's definitely a core group that I always watch. There's some others that I tend not to watch, but there's that kind of core group that I watch. And I love when Erik does his educational series. That's one of the things I always go to and watch as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of great content. I think for viewers, there's enough out there that you can just kind of pick who you feel like, you kind of maybe agree with more, or your palates can pick up the same type of things. So I think there's enough options out there where everyone can kind of pick and choose.
I would agree.
Very cool.
There's a lot of information out there. Search for whatever your topic is, and just start picking out. You can pretty much tell. So over the course of the last 4 years that we've been doing whiskey reviews, we've definitely improved as far as our interaction. We just talk over each other more. The lighting wasn't as good, the camera wasn't as good, all that kind of thing. But the weird thing is when we review a whiskey, the reviews haven't really changed. Our palates really haven't changed a whole lot. They are more mature. At least I'm able to pick up more nuances than I used to be able to. But if we review a whiskey now, it's not going to be that much different than we reviewed it 4 years ago. So I think if you are curious about somebody, watch one of their videos, because you're going to get 90% of what they're going to be in their first, 6 months of watching video or recording videos, because that's their personality. Again, what makes a channel interesting is not necessarily the tech. It's not the lighting. It's not the cameras. That enhances the experience, but it's the people that are talking. And if the people are talking are having, really interactive discussions, or they're really insightful, or they have a great, fun, joking personality that are pleasant to watch or listen to, then go for those. What are you into? And if that person doesn't hit it for you, there's a million other people out there that are doing what we're doing as well.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. When it comes to Scotch reviews, to the dummies, is there somebody out there you watch that kind of, that kind of agrees with your palate normally, or you just kind of watch as much as you can?
I'll tell you, out of the four of us, I can probably guarantee I probably watch the most YouTube out of all four of us. And I'm kind of like you, Jason. There's a lot. I mean, it's one of those things where it's easy to just subscribe to a bunch of people, because then you can see what comes up. Yeah. I'm kind of like, depending on my day, when I have time, I kind of just pick and choose things that are kind of interesting to me. But it's really it's a variety, whatever is just kind of up and out there. I don't really have anyone that I personally watch all the time. It's just a matter of, okay, I've got 20 minutes for my lunch. Who am I going to watch today? And then, there's Erik. I'm going to watch Erik's for a little bit. Or there's yours. Or there's I Wish You See Wine. So for me, I like to see what people are doing. For me, I look at it differently. I don't look at it just for the whiskey. I also look at it for what you guys are doing, production, and how you guys are doing things. I look at it a different way. So it's not just about whiskey for me. It's about the whole experience.
The other thing I do, though, sometimes I'll go through a whiskey and then I want to compare notes. Well, who else has also done this whiskey? And it might be, Bill, the whiskey dick, and he did it like a year and a half ago. And he thought it was kind of weird that why is Erik commenting on these old videos? Is he just now catching up with my content, from a year ago? And then I had to tell him no, because I'm now tasting that whiskey. And so now I'm going through all the whiskey tubers and seeing who else has done the same whiskey. And
right.
So the funny thing is I kind of know who is closest to me on my palate and who's the furthest from me on my palate, and who has similar taste and preferences as well from watching all the different other whiskey tubers. Yeah,
I mean, one of my palate lines pretty well up with Bart from Scotch4Dummies. I mean, he's got a really, a nuanced peated whiskey palate that aligns with me probably as best as what I've seen online. One of the comments there, look through the comments, and they're talking about whiskey tubers that really there are, as far as YouTube goes, the whiskey community is absolutely tiny. It is infinitesimal and almost non-existent and of no care. There are roughly, 2 whiskey channels that are above 100,000 subscribers?
When you compare it to the gamer community on YouTube.
Oh. Well, even the here, let me shoot a gun, or let me do a science experiment. All those whiskey tubers are minimum 100,000, if not 300,000, 500,000. And so, even what you would consider fairly niche communities, the whiskey community is so small, and I don't know if it's because whiskey drinkers are older or I mean, they're not though. Bourbon drinkers, whiskey drinkers are the same age as.
It's the biggest problem with, and I think that's what people don't think about is, we're out here doing this because we have a passion. We want to keep the lights on, but at the same time, we were also limiting ourselves because the market share is just very small for what we're doing. It's just, you're not going to have a huge market share compared to what you could do on YouTube, whether you're reviewing toys or you're doing gaming or anything else like that, because you're limiting yourself to an alcoholic market range of adults.
Right.
No matter what you do, for a lot of reasons, you're going to get, not even a small percentage, like maybe 5% of what YouTube could give you. So we're already kind of handicapped going into this, knowing this. So we all do this because for multiple reasons, but mostly because we want to express ourselves to help educate, and because we obviously have a passion for what we do and want to share it with people. And that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, I doubt. So Pootie Pie is getting close to 100 million subscribers. I doubt very many of them are over the age of 30.
Oh, no. Most of your YouTube subscribers are around 8 to 15-year-olds, right?
And my demographics are 35 to 45.
Right.
Likewise. Yep. But that's part of the game.
The truth is, we really are allowed to admit and just own up to it. The reason why we're whiskey tubers, so we can justify spending the money on whiskey.
Yes. It opens our mind.
I started my channel because I fell in love with the community and I thought I could bring something different to it. So
it's for science and medical research. Betterment of mankind.
It's always science and betterment of mankind. That's what it is. But, you guys know this. The whiskey community is amazing. So
it is. All right, we are over time, so I'm going to go around the horn. Erik, what do you got coming up next week?
So my next step is going to actually be on pricing of what are you guys pointing at?
I'm trying to figure out where you're at.
Oh, I'm over here. Anyway, so my next video is going to be on pricing of what goes into creating the cost of a bottle of Scotch whiskey. So that'll be coming up this weekend on my series, The Business of Scotch Whiskey. And it's going to be difficult. I'm not done yet. It's difficult putting that concept to try to get that data into a video, but that should be coming up this weekend. I'm doing a live stream tomorrow, and I'm going to screw up the name. There are 3 guys. One of them has a big hairdo. Jason, help me out here. Oak and
Smoke Whiskey Reviews.
There you go.
Okay.
They're coming on tomorrow night on my channel, and then Sunday night I'm having William Poppe, Pop or Pope, one of the I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. Anyway, he's a sommelier working at a restaurant. He's a wine somm and a whiskey somm. I'm having him on Sunday. We're going to talk about being a somm, working in the trade, and wine and whiskey. So I'm going to have 2 live streams come this weekend. So it's going to be a busy weekend.
That is busy. Jason, what you got?
As I mentioned before, I have a couple videos released. Look for my Booker's review tomorrow. Look for my top 5 video. We'll go to rye whiskeys coming up after that. Coming up in September, I'm going to be having Erica Beindorf from Brook Lottie coming on the channel because I'm in love with that distillery. So she's going to be coming on the channel at some point. I think we had September 18-ish or something like that slated for it. I got to go back and look, but keep on the lookout for that. And also all my my live streams are every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a great time. Give away some samples. So check it out.
Oh, next Friday is my 1-year anniversary. I don't know what I'm going to do for my 1-year anniversary, but I'll be doing that next Friday.
You gotta have a cake. Go to
no pants. You got to do the dance with no pants, buddy.
I see that.
Make sure you have that table in front of you. All right, what do we got coming up?
I don't know. You tell me.
We got to record some reviews. We're a little bit behind. Everybody's scattered. That's why we're all scattered this weekend. It's because everybody's traveling for work except me. So we'll have to get together this weekend and figure out what we're gonna do. So we'll do reviews. live every Thursday, one review every Monday is our current schedule. The beauty of what we do, and this kind of experience is exactly why we went into the podcast community. It's because, I mean, you don't need to see our faces to understand what's going on here. It's a discussion. We're describing what we're talking. We're describing what we taste. And so, I don't know if Streamlabs will allow this to go on a podcast, but we'll have to work that out later.
I got an idea for you guys.
What's that?
Mark is traveling, right?
Yeah.
Go over there and review some of his whiskeys.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. He does some good stuff though too. I haven't seen him online at all. So he doesn't even know. I love it. All right, well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Jason with Fashion Drum.
Thanks for having us on.
Erik Wait.
Thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate it. It's nice to have you. Nice to join the live stream with you guys finally. Thanks.
All right, you guys stay on. I will end the broadcast. Cheers, everyone. Slancha, subscribe, YouTube, all that, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And okay, thank you guys.